Alright, I know that most of you who watch my videos use Android, so we're going to do another video just for you about 10 more cool free Android apps to check out. Some of these might be available also for iOS, but not all of them. And many of these aren't even that well known, so hopefully you'll find at least something new. Let's begin. Starting off, we have a quite useful app, Adobe Scan. I've mentioned other scanning apps in the past, but this one is a bit different and potentially much easier to use than all the others. Because with this, how it works is you hover the camera over what you want to scan, and it will automatically detect the document, scan it, crop it, and adjust the perspective. So you don't even have to press the shutter button, it does everything automatically. And if you have multiple pages, you can just hold down the camera up to each one as it snaps the photos to scan them. I've found this to be a lot faster and easier than other scanning apps I've used. Now, the one thing I will say is that while it's faster, I think this is best suited for documents where the scan quality is not a top priority, because you can't choose when it will take the photo. It might snap the picture at a weird angle or when you're moving the phone a bit, so it won't look as good if you were perfectly centering the phone above the document, holding it as steady as possible. But at least this way, you can have something that you can use if you're in a hurry. Next up, number 2 is a cool photo editing app that is actually pretty popular called Prisma. And the idea is it's kind of similar to Instagram in that it applies filters to your photos that you have or you've taken. But these filters are a lot more sophisticated than just adjusting the look of the colors. So the idea is you can take a regular photo and turn it into a kind of art. And these filters are actually really sweet. Plus, you don't have to use the full strength of the filter, you can adjust it however you want. So maybe if you want to give your Instagram photos a little extra flair, this is a great way to do it. All these filters look really cool and there is a ton of them. Alright, number 3 is an app that was created by Microsoft, ironically. It's the Next Lock Screen, and like the name suggests, it's a lock screen replacement for Android. I don't necessarily have a problem with the default lock screen, but this one actually looks really nice and has a lot of customization options you normally wouldn't get. For example, you can have the photo background be the Bing photo of the day where it changes, which are actually pretty good. And you can also choose to have quick launch shortcuts of your favorite apps at the bottom or swipe up to see them. And of course, when you do that, you'll also see shortcuts like flashlight, Wi-Fi toggle, and battery saver mode. The only downside is I noticed it can add a bit of delay when unlocking the phone because it sort of runs on top of the default lock screen. You can disable this, but I wouldn't because then you'd lose the security from disabling the system fingerprint lock or whatever. Still worth checking out if you want something that looks a little bit nicer. Moving on, we have an app for those of you who roam around a lot called the Wi-Fi Mapper. And the idea is simple. You open up the app and it shows you your location and any open Wi-Fi hotspots that are close by, even if they're not within the Wi-Fi range. So this way, if you need a Wi-Fi, you can just walk to the closest one. But as I've said before, open Wi-Fi hotspots are usually risky, so you should always use a VPN if you're going to connect one, if at all. So the way it maps these hotspots is it just uses the data from all the other people who use the app. When you open the app, it notes all the hotspots around you and puts them on the map for anyone else nearby in the future. Next, number 5 is another one probably a lot have heard of, Duolingo. And the point of this one is to teach you a new language in your free time. And they have a ton of languages to choose from, and it uses a bunch of different activities to teach you the words in the new language. So one example might be matching up the word with an image or matching up the equivalent word in your language. And you aren't supposed to know all of them at first, obviously, so it's fine if you get some wrong. You're supposed to. The point is, it's not going to just have you memorize vocabulary terms, but rather give you some context to the words you're learning so you can remember them better. It's a pretty cool idea, and I think a lot of people seem to like it, so it's worth checking out. Volume notification, and this is probably one of the apps that you didn't realize you needed until you see it. And what it does is adds a little menu bar when you swipe down for notifications that lets you directly adjust the different volumes for music, the ringer, alarms, and others. As you might know, normally if you want to adjust the media volume, you have to press one of the volume keys and hope that it adjusts the media volume instead of the ringer, and if it doesn't, you have to click the drop down and then change it. It's really a pain. With this, you just swipe down, click on whatever one you want to change, and it brings up the volume bar for it right there. And there is another app I'll quickly mention that goes along with this called Rocker Locker. I've talked about it before, but what this one does is changes the default sound setting for the volume buttons to control. So if you want the volume buttons to instead control the media volume by default, not the ring volume, you can do that. So these two I think I'll group together. They're both worth looking at. This one is actually really awesome. It's called Photo Math, and it lets you solve math problems just by pointing your camera at it. Anything from complex calculus to basic arithmetic, you just line it up with the box shown on the screen, and it instantly solves basically anything you throw at it. And not only that, it will even show you the steps you would need to take to solve the problem yourself. So I think this would obviously be pretty useful for anyone taking a math class, and maybe there's some weird homework problem, you can just let your phone do it. Or if your handwriting is so bad it can't figure out what you even wrote, you can also just type in the problem manually. You can do that as well. So much for all those teachers who used to say, you're gonna have to learn this because you won't always have a calculator with you. Yeah, sure. An app called Navbar Apps. And this one allows you to customize the way your navigation bar at the bottom of the screen looks. So usually your phone might have a couple settings to choose between, like white, black, or clear, but with this, the sky's the limit. You can choose from a bunch of different images as the navigation bar, or add your own image, or just use a solid color, and it even lets you add emojis for some reason. But one really cool one is you can have the navigation bar act as a battery meter. So the more battery you have left, the more it fills up with one color, and it gets smaller as the battery drains. Now these customizations don't seem to work in every app, and for some reason it seems to disappear when I'm at the home screen, but it does show up in most of the apps I use, so this is a pretty fun one, I think. And that's it. Hopefully out of them you guys found at least a couple you didn't know about before. And be sure to check out the comments below in case other people know about some cool apps I didn't mention. If you want to keep watching, I'll put some other videos right here. You can just click on those. And if you want to subscribe, I make new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.